So here we are. I just want to welcome my beautiful friend and sacred sister, Maryellen Elcock, and she's been gracious enough to join me in a conversation. We've had many over the years, and part of this whole coming together is really to bring the wisdom that we each hold, no matter what we're doing in the world, whatever our vocation, our occupation is. I believe we all carry wisdom from our journey and from past lives. And so Maryellen has a very interesting journey as far as, and I hope you will certainly share your progression from where you were in corporate, or maybe academia is what I should say, to where you are now, and that we are being held in sacred space by 12 dogs today.
Right.
Which I think needs to be shared because we may hear them in the background. So do you feel like you want to share a little bit of where you've come from in this to where you are? And
For sure. And should we also mention that the occasion of this conversation is Imbolc, and we are honoring this time between winter and spring as a time of transformation.
Well, absolutely. And I want to, if I can preface a little bit, because I think, I can't remember if you came. So I've known you for many years, and we don't even know how many years at this time.
Right.
But I don't know if you came back at the end of August, September.
I think so.
Sometime. So really in that fall time, and that really resonates for me as far as the autumn season of the Crone. And then I believe I asked you, would you be open to having a conversation? And you said yes. But then when I asked you again, you weren't ready. And so what I find it interesting from my perspective, this little bit of the journey of moving into a deeper place of darkness, really, with the winter solstice. And now that you're ready in this time of the Imbolc, when really the light we're starting to see it. In fact, last night with my last client, I was like, there's more light. It's 5:30 and it's still a bit of light. So I hope my analogy is making sense. I feel like your readiness is in this place of with the Imbolc, and where the light is coming more online and being shown. And so I think it gives place to greater inspiration for where we've been and where we're going. And
Well, and really, speaking of my journey and various transformations throughout life that we all go through, you and your gifts have been a huge part of that. And I know we can't remember exactly when we met, but I found you mainly as a chiropractor at first. I was having trouble with my back.
Well, and I didn't know if someone referred you or if you just.
No, I don't think so. I think I found you at that time. I believe I was living in Kent. Because I started Creekside Critter Care, this dog business over in Kent. And just by way of introduction, I did come from an academic background, and I have a PhD in epidemiology, but I always really had a deep interest in the spiritual side of life that mainstream life wasn't giving me. My academic life wasn't really giving me. And so I had started this dog pet care business with my younger sister, Anne, and met you. Now, when I started this, I was about 45. So I was really at the beginning of Crone phase in human life. So that was kind of the beginning of the Crone journey for me. And both of my parents had just passed away. And it became very obvious to me that you do what you want and love to do when you can, because death is a part of life, and it does not go on forever, which sounds very trite, but I think sometimes in our minds we figure we have forever to do anything. But it was all a struggle, and then I met you, and you have the ability, just as you did in the fall, to point to myth and story and spirit that really assists individuals to understand the journey that each one of us is on, but it is universal at the same time, if that makes sense.
Well, it's funny as you speak that, it makes me think, because I think we talked about even not just necessarily myths and story, but well, it is a myth, but it's a movie. We talked about the Snow White and the Huntsman. Do you remember us having that conversation? And because there's several things about not just the fact that you have this, you have an amazing connection to animals and nature. And I remember you've posted a photo of, I think it was a robin.
Yes.
And I just, all of that just makes me feel that connection to nature, to our spiritual I'm here intelligence, but how when we connect, things come to us. Things come to us, whether it's people or whether really even in the natural world, where things are drawn to us. And I feel you have that magic, if you will, that magic in you. And I guess I'm curious, what made you decide you were going to work with dogs? Was there something that was there always there?
In my human form as a child, I grew up with dogs, and I just connected with them more so, I suppose, than human beings. And I don't know, that just never ever went away. It was hard for me going through college and graduate school and having a life that really didn't open itself to dogs, and that was the one thing I always wanted. And as life evolved, I was getting the messages from the culture, go out and get this kind of job, do this sort of thing, be successful in a monetary way or a powerful way or something like that. And all I really wanted was to be outside. I knew that. And so that was a very common theme. And then, it took me until I was 45 to put it all together and say, here's how I can do dogs and be outside in nature. And really the beginning of this business was about bringing dogs on hikes every day. Things have changed in the 20 years since we started the business, because a lot of the trails we use are, overrun with people. But it was my way of being with dogs who are just one step closer to the wildness of life and be in the woods.
Well, and what I love is you did this when it was not popular. This was like brand new, because well, I love one as far as like my Instagram, I like to check out the cat videos. I have cat accounts and dog accounts, and there's I just have to mention this if you haven't seen it. I think it's called Mew Mutts. Anyway, they put the dogs on mountain mutts or something, Mew Mountain Mutts, and it made, first time I saw it, it was like, oh my gosh. But it was like, not like you need to see it. It's like, you've been doing this for 20 years. So they pick the dogs up in the van, and they, which you do, you pick your dogs up, and I've never seen exactly what all you do, but they have their leash and all that, and they're sitting in the bus and they get snacks, and these dogs
I
are
saw that.
well behaved.
I will say that.
But the thing is, really, you're a pioneer. I don't know if that's an appropriate word, but I mean, you were doing this when it wasn't a thing, when other people weren't doing it. You know,
That is true. I said, I'm a true believer in networking and finding people that are doing something similar. And at that time, there was no one local, but I was calling around. There was a guy, I think he was in Montana or something, that had a school bus, and he was gracious, and we had a big long conversation, and I got a few pointers. But you're right, there weren't that many people doing this. That's really why I started it, because I had a Vishla who was insane, and it was a rescue to me. And I thought, I need a daycare, and there was nothing there, and I just refused. The previous owner wanted to put him down, and he was really had a screw loose. But we did a lot of work with him, and he needed daycare. He needed the company of other dogs and running every day, and he ironed himself out. But it was very clear to me, I'm going to start the daycare that I need. That's how that happened. So.
well, I hope you have honored yourself for the courage, really the courage to step out into following what your heart desired, what your soul desired, what you needed to live the life that would really fuel you, which I think can be challenging for people,
Yes. Yes.
I'm just going to leave it at that, because so how do you want to speak about that a little bit in terms of tapping into that place of, I think we get to a place where we know we can't keep going how we're going. And that
Right.
might be before we actually hit a Crone season, or it may be in the Crone season. And it's like, there's no other way. Maybe we don't know what we're to do, but we know it's time. It's time.
To do it, even if you don't know what. It's interesting, because I finished my PhD late in life. I was, I don't know, 42, something like that. And I remember, honestly, one of the most intimidating things that I've been through in my life, which is going to sound crazy, but was defend my thesis, because I was up against 5 men who were asking me questions. And that for me was just like, I even feel a little nauseous thinking about it right now. And one of the questions, very typical question for a dissertation defense, well, where do you see yourself in 5 or 10 years? And I said, I don't really know. I know that I want to live a life that I love. And I really believe that this education is a piece of that puzzle. But I don't know where it will take me. And, I was an older student, and I think they were just throwing up their hands like, all right, well, she's never going to be an academic. But they gave me a pass, let me go. But in all honesty, I think the academic background, when my sister and I started the business, even though we didn't have firm dog experience, although we trained dogs when they were young, and we've always had animals in our lives, but a lot of people do that. We did have an academic background, and people could see that, okay, we do things, we stick to it, we work towards a goal, kind of thing. So in that sense, it did help me. And then when people realized that I left an academic realm to take care of dogs, a lot of them really thought it was very funny and odd, but they were happy because we were taking good care of the dogs. But you're right, it wasn't even really about courage. It was about, yeah, you have to do it. There's no choice. That's how it feels when you finally make that big step. And of course, along the way, but then the little mind demons come in and talk to you for a while, or always, but you learn how to ignore them.
Well, I feel it's a beautiful thing to say, you know what? This isn't what I want to do. You know, it was a path of, I know my educations have, taught me a lot, not just book smart, but, but a lot about myself, about life. There's more to it. The journey is bigger than that.
Yeah.
But also to get to that point of versus feeling I've invested so much time and energy in my life in this, I can't do something else. I just think it's a beautiful thing to say, I have discovered what I've discovered. And I've also discovered, in terms of the getting my PhD, but I've also discovered it's time to move into something else.
Right. And I've never felt quite right in the mainstream, just a little off. And it's now in my Crone years where I feel like things are blossoming. My brother Joe always says something like, it's okay if you're a late bloomer, just don't be late for the flower show or something like that, But when I was, it's really funny. When I was young, I remember saying to my father, he was reading the paper, I said, Dad, I don't think I want to go to college because I wanted to be a professional dog handler. So this was a professional dog handler.
Oh, you did?
Showing down. So, but way back then, I had an inkling of what I wanted to do. And he just looked at me and said, no. And like there was no discussion, this was my parents were of an older generation. They could have been my grandparents. And it was like, whoa, okay. So I did go to college and then I proceeded to go on to graduate school because I found that I kind of liked being in school because I didn't have to get real jobs. And so I'm happy for that background because it allowed me to kind of percolate as a human being and then pop out much later in life, like in my 40s and now in my mid 60s, still figuring out what I'm doing, but at a totally different, very well ensconced in the Crone phase of my life, So
well, this is as our conversations usually are. There's a lot of things that are starting to ping, ping, ping as we're talking, and I just feel this, to get a PhD, to get a doctorate degree of any sort, you really have journeyed into academia, into the whole, however you wish to refer to that, let's say the mental realm.
Right.
And yet, I feel the whole aspect of working with the dogs is, it's not just physical. There's a much more, it's everything for you. I think it feeds you body, heart, and soul, spiritually. I mean, I think that, so it's almost like, well, I went this avenue and now it's time for me to go into this. It's almost like I feel like you've stretched yourself in terms of exploration, and I think it's a beautiful thing. And to be able to come and go, it was there all along. It's
the Wizard of Oz. It's the Wizard of Oz.
There's another myth.
I know, they're on our feet the whole time. And the other thing that is really clear to me is that we can have anything we want. That's true. Sometimes the things we want may not be, for our highest good and we're unknowingly to us, but anything is possible. Anything. I really believe that.
Well, and look what you've just accomplished. that we haven't talked about? Oh.
Really,
The fact that you're
transformation.
an athlete, you're not just an athlete, you're a triathlete.
Well,
And you have the heart of an ultra athlete.
that's hilarious. No, the funny thing is, the other thing I always wanted to be was an athlete, and I never have been. But at this stage in my life, doing even tiny things becomes like, oh, I could consider myself an athlete. And it really is a part of my own transformation this at this stage in Cronedom. You start to lose people and things. And I was really down a rabbit hole with escaping through alcohol, very, very unhappy emotionally and physically. And so last year during Imbolc, actually, I stopped drinking and I started paying attention to my diet, and I started exercising and doing strength training and things like that. And it has transformed another transformation, which is just, it is strength training in every way. I just feel like a different person.
Well, and you had to
Even-
heal an injury at the same time. Your shoulder, wasn't your shoulder? I don't remember.
That's true. That's true. But
you
that
know.
all that starts to happen. I lost my balance, fell down on my shoulder, and I thought, I am getting old. And I started to believe that stuff that, our culture would have us believe, that you get old, you should slow down, watch it, all these aches and pains are, well, they probably are not avoidable, but they're not something that you have to sit down and take. They're not indications that you should stop moving, which is what we tend to do. I did anyway, and it made it worse. So, yeah, it's a whole new game. It's at this stage in life. And so now I'm very grateful for things like YouTube, because I can find those elder mentors that are really going for it, physically, and especially physically. I love those athletes that keep going,
Well,
They're-
it's too bad it's winter in your jacket, because when you came in, I was like, you've been working out. I could see definition in your deltoids, because it was summer, and it was like, you really had a huge transformation. And I mean that just honoring the fact that it takes commitment. It takes putting in the time and energy, and you're not giving up. You're committing to yourself. And
right. And in the past, I would mess around with things like, oh, I'll go do a 5K, but not train. Or years ago, I did the Lake Meridian Triathlon locally. It's just a great group of people, but I didn't train for it really. And this year I decided I'm going to start training step by step. This is a journey, not just I'm going to go out and prove that I can do the triathlon without passing out or vomiting or something. You know what I mean? So but just really cultivates myself from where I am now, be the best that I can be in this moment. And I've never really done that before, which is that's embarrassing to admit. I would kind of flail around, but it's just one tiny step at a time. And then the real beauty and joy of it becomes the journey. That's the part I was missing until this phase in my life. That it's the journey.
It's the journey, and it's more than winning that, because you did win. You won your age group, right? Didn't you didn't you win a medal?
But Cheryl, I was the only one in it. Yes, I did win it.
But you did complete it.
I completed it.
Right.
I
Oh, look at the
agree with it.
fact that nobody
And
else was there. Nobody else was in your age group. I mean, goodness.
well, it's true, but let's be clear, this is a mini triathlon. But one of my friends, Lord, said, hey, you showed up, you won.
You know what? If you don't show up, nothing's going to happen. So you have to show up. You have to show up every day, you know?
Another lesson,
And
yes.
uh, you said too the other day, and I don't know if you were going actually to, were you going to just work out at the gym or were you going to go to a class, but you had this question of, am I being selfish?
Right.
You know, but we have to take care of ourselves. No
Well, and
one's going to do that for
sometimes
you.
when we think about being selfish, it's because it's a symptom of feeling separate from other people, from you know, kind of not accepting the oneness of everything. Because you take care of yourself, you're taking care of the whole. And that's becoming very clear to me too, which also, you know, is the Crone's journey as she makes her journey towards the acceptance of death, at least in the myths, right?
Mhm.
As she does that, she is bringing that peace to her kingdom. You know, they don't know what she's doing, but here she is. She goes to the underworld, comes back with the acceptance of death, realizing that it is actually a part of life. It is not separate. It is not the end. It's the cycle. And in doing that, she gives that gift to all around her, even if they don't understand it entirely. The energy pervades, right? Do you know what I'm saying?
Yeah, because I believe our um, we emanate what we know, what we are, what we've, the music, I think we talked about that, the music we've now are holding that frequency.
Yeah.
And I believe it's like, you know, I don't know if it's a quote, a formal quote, but you know, your presence, Rumi may have said it, you know, your presence actually precedes, our energy precedes us. It actually is emanating.
Yes.
And what a beautiful what's the gift that she brings then to the kingdom, because she's not going to be there forever.
Yes.
And so I think that also is that we become more sovereign amongst within our own being. We aren't just looking to someone else to lead us. We become our own leader,
Yeah.
our own.
In
Am I making sense?
yes, and it's not even an understanding, it's an inner knowing that an inner feeling of the total connection, that everyone, you know, Ram Dass has this saying, we're all walking each other home.
Mhm.
And that, you know, really, isn't that also a statement about the acceptance of death? And and this Crone phase that is kind of symbolized by winter into spring, we repeat through our lives. We don't have to be, you know, 65 years old like I am. I mean, I started at 45 and I probably had Crone journeys when I was younger. But in the end, every human being is up against, I would say, fear of mortality. I mean, there are some enlightened beings that, you know, really have it going on and get it, but most of us don't. And there's this inner fear, and there becomes, you know, a big rub for us, this inner grinding of, oof.
Well, I think it
But
becomes,
the Crone energy brings us through. She finally accepts the fact that she doesn't have to retire to her hut in the woods. She could go to the underworld, face death, realize that it is not an enemy, and that what So everything goes away, all of the angst goes away. Here it is. This is just a piece of the journey. And then the Ram Dass thing always makes me feel better. We are all walking each other home. We're all just going home.
Right? And we get to
Yeah.
share what we've learned. We get to share whether we're leading by example in our way in the world. We don't have to necessarily be formally teaching. I think we share it by just showing up and how we're
Just by being, we are living our true love. What is the meaning in life? There isn't. It's really just being, and by being, so you are then guided. You can do anything, and you are in your life's purpose, right? And I know when I was younger, I thought there was a purpose that I would eventually uncover, and that never happened. But I feel absolutely and completely content, because the more stillness I cultivate within, the more I understand that there is no separation between me and everything around me, and this ego mind will continue to function, but it's a form. It's not real, right? I mean, it gets me through. It's a survival thing, but it's not who we are.
no, it's not
I
who
guess
we
we're
are.
getting off topic.
No, there's we go where we need to go. Remember, we set the intention that it would be woven, that
Yeah.
the divine would weave this for us. Because I've struggled with, this, what am I actually to do in the world, and one of the answers in my prayer that I received was, well, it doesn't matter what you do, as long as it's around love. And really, in the big picture of it all, I think it's being the most authentic, really
Yeah.
connecting within us, and God, source, our creator, is also within us, being in that place of really in authenticity, of
Yeah.
being in integrity with our own body, heart, and soul every day. How, I don't know, I think that's a pretty amazing mission or purpose to have, to show up every day, to be able to do that, no matter what I decide I'm going to do in the world.
Whatever it is, exactly. And who are we with our minds to judge the form or the mind or our actions? Because here the infinite is playing with form, and we are a part of it. And we're supposed to be exactly who we are and the way we are. And yes, we get inspiration from those around us, but really emulating other people's journey, it's not going to bring you happiness. This is so unique. The vehicle we're in, body, mind. I mean, when I was younger, I was extremely self-critical, and it was a very uncomfortable way to live. But meeting you all those years ago, helped me cultivate the wisdom that this is an infinite being in this finite form, right?
Well, I think I just helped validate what you already knew. I think
You're a midwife.
Oh, okay, I like that. Because some of what your experiences, the things you've read, things you've experienced, your journeys to France. I mean, there's so much that I don't know where you went, but the whales, were the whales or the dolphins you were with? I mean,
Whales, down in Mexico, yes.
Everything, and this is true, I believe, with everyone, that everything we've encounter and experience brings us greater opportunity to grow and evolve and carry wisdom. And when we can really connect to the fact that this is a vehicle to carry our soul, our I am presence, however you wish to experience life. I mean, this is like, we are truly miracles to be here.
Yes.
And how honoring it is to be in this form, to experience, to play with the dogs, to smell the grass, to smell the flowers, to plant the flowers, to touch the flowers. There's so much that I feel that we take for granted. And I think that's part of what happens in the crone when she gets to that, the leaves start falling, and she starts to see it with even her parents, or older generation, or her friends, or even her own body starts changing, in that it's like, oh my gosh, I think we come to a greater place of really honoring just the pure essence of life.
Yes. And I don't know if this happens to you when you hear a teaching from someone. One of my favorite teachers is Eckhart Tolle. And I don't know that I heard this from him, but the concept that we are not born, we do not die. And the first time I heard that, I thought, oh my God, that is so important, but I cannot come close to understanding that. And it's taken years and years and years of just kind of living with the concept, and finally having the understanding that who we are is not born and does not die. That essence you're talking about. And that is the piece that we can completely miss in this particular journey. If you believe you just have, we have one or two or many or whatever. But once you realize that the essence is entirely different from an aging body, a planet that's, having trouble. I don't know. It's pure joy. There's no problem.
So this is what comes up for me. So I started seeing this generationally, in terms of, I'll just call the seasons of life. To me, it was a little bit more than like the triple goddess for the maiden and mother crone. It was like, there was my mother, there's my sister, there's me and my daughter. I felt like there was the maiden, my daughter. I was the mother, but I was actually moving into this, I was kind of bumping up against this crone when I started to see it, and then seeing my sister in that crone phase. And my mom was definitely in this place of winter, and I wasn't quite sure how to phrase it, but I really see that as the queen, diving into the place of like, she was happy and she was joyful. It was like she was almost a kid, I don't know that she ever really lost it. She always just had this place of wonder, but I think it's that place of never, if we can really hold on to joy, because I think that place of discovery is so, it's a primal. As children, we were just, everything is new, and we're just in this true place of discovery. And if we can get back, if we don't ever lose it, ideally, if we can just really be in a place of joy for everything.
I haven't thought about this in a while, but Joseph Campbell, I used to, back in the day, I would listen to cassette tapes in my car, and I would listen to Joseph Campbell tapes over and over and over. But basically, he's a mythologist. He just takes world myths and explains them to people like me so we can, mildly understand them. But one saying he had, and this was one of those pearls of wisdom that I couldn't get for the longest time, he would say, life it's about joyful participation in the sorrows of life. And the first time I heard that, I thought, I cannot do that. But once you do, you're in a different place. And we were talking about this earlier this week, that the infinite God, whatever it is you would like to call it, includes everything. And only our minds will discern good, bad, happy, unhappy, joy, sorrow, joyful participation in the sorrows of life. He's just really. But in Joseph Campbell, the hero's journey, that he explains all of these arcs, like the Crone arc, and then we should do another conversation, because the Crone arcs into the mage, M-A-G-E, magician, magic. So the Crone just doesn't accept death and die. He or she goes into the mage. Beautiful, isn't it?
Well, and is that analogous to the Magi? I don't know, that's how or just, the magic. I think at that point, everything becomes the potentiality of magic, or
yeah.
And what is really magic, except that I think we're in a place of really being with the divine, with the infinite, and how things will unfold more beautiful. That's the phrase I use, more beautifully than we can imagine. Like we can't even, and it just happens because we're in that place to receive it and to participate. I think comes back to a place of participation and maybe even being unattached at the same time.
Yes, unattached and completely the understanding that we are completely one with everything. Do you know Ram Dass, the Harvard professor that met Timothy Leary and was experimenting with LSD, then went to India? He started out as Richard Alpert and then turned into Ram Dass.
Well, I recognize the name, but I don't know enough to.
And thanks to YouTube, I think I've listened to all of his talks then. But his wisdom, I don't know, he would come up with these hilarious things like, everyone you see is God in drag. And again, the first time I heard that, I thought, what did he just say? I don't really get that. But everyone you come up against is the face of God, or the infinite, whatever vocabulary you choose.
Mm-hmm.
And there are times when I think maybe I'll be nervous about meeting someone or doing something, and I'll think, oh, I get to go visit God, a new face of God. And it becomes more of a delight and a curiosity. And I may or may not like that face that I see, but it's interesting.
Well, I think that gives that place too of just being curious.
Yes.
Staying in a place of curiosity and not defining anything yet, or being curious, and maybe even in that place of going, maybe this doesn't align with me, it doesn't resonate with me, it doesn't have to be good or bad, it's just not where I'm at. That song doesn't, and
energetically, but yes, exactly.
But
energy takes itself.
And I think it's okay to be in that place of everything is part of the infinite, but I may not be in that resonance, and
yes.
Yet I may be. Yet can I be curious enough to just check it out?
Mm-hmm. Exactly. I don't know how long we've been talking, but have you noticed the dogs haven't said a word?
Well, I didn't know if it sounded like one was there. I don't know how. Are they all there?
Not all, most of them are here now, but they're holding sacred space for this conversation, being very good dogs.
Well, and there's 12 of them. I think that's very appropriate.
Wow. They had a very
Um,
good dinner though, homemade dinner.
Oh, nice. Okay. I don't even, I was trying to see. I think we've talked for, I'm not sure where we started. We may have talked for about an hour now, but is there anything you feel that's still burning inside of you, like the Imbolc, in this, something to really offer as inspiration or hope, or just for your own passion of for either others or for yourself, or the Crone, how did you say it? I'm not saying it right. I want the mage, the
Madge, I actually looked up the pronunciation on Google, Madge.
Okay.
It's spelled
Still need to read
M-A-G-E.
that article you sent fully.
I know.
I got the essence of
didn't.
it, but
Well,
as you are moving into this, I think your life does emanate the magic, and of, even though you might be in this, how do I want to bring the labyrinth in. You may have to mention your labyrinth, but I was thinking about this earlier. Do we sometimes we go into the journey, we go into the labyrinth, we come to that center, and then we come out, and then we have another labyrinth that we walk into, we journey into. Is life just a number of labyrinths that we end up with through our experience?
Over and over and over again, and that's why the labyrinth is used as a meditation tool, largely. Even in medieval times it was, but it's a many different patterns available, but it's basically a winding pattern, a spiral basically. But it will come close to the center and then work all the way out. And as you're walking it, your mind, you can feel yourself getting close to the center, but you loop out, and then magically it seems you look down and you're in the center. Like, oh, and then you walk your way out. So that, you complete this full cycle. And there are some neuroscience explanations for what walking the labyrinth and doing those twists and turns can do for kind of a meditative state. But it's just used over and over again. Bring either a completely open mind or bring a problem to the labyrinth, and just watch yourself walk step by step, by step. The answer is always there.
So, but there's something even beyond it. There has to be something beyond it, because you have a labyrinth on your property, and your dogs hang out there.
They do. They love it.
So
they love it. Well, unless this is a whole different conversation, but the labyrinth is based on sacred geometry, and that I don't know very much about, but believe in it completely. And so there is an energy around these forms. And, even in medieval times, they would put these labyrinths in the floors of cathedrals, and pilgrims would come, from hundreds and hundreds of miles to the big cathedrals so they would do a pilgrimage to get there. And now the labyrinth itself represents a form of that pilgrimage in our current daily life. So it's powerful.
It's very powerful. And I just feel like almost like we don't have to necessarily formally walk one. I think life brings it to us.
It does. We're actually always walking it. You're right. And even, as we're labeling the arc of the Crone and times in life, and and the seasons that they just happen, the seasons of our life happen. We are living metaphors. We are living myths. And the only thing we miss out on now is any instruction. We don't normally hear about world myths that might inform us along our journey, whether we're the maiden or the crone, or the mother wife or the crone. And I'm finding great solace in revisiting these things, like Joseph Campbell's work, um, the hero's journey and the hero with a thousand faces. Carolyn Mace has, I haven't read her in a while, but I think you have. And then Nicola Estes, the woman who run with the wolves. Oh my God, she's the bomb. So you start reading those things and realizing, oh, I am actually living this journey. This is spectacular. This isn't just a bunch of crap that's being thrown around at me. This is a journey.
And we're each
it
living our
becomes
own.
magic.
Pardon me?
Yeah. It becomes magic. It, just mentally it transforms from the drudgery of a day to, woo, here we are.
Yes.
So,
Yes. And,
yeah.
and here you are, 20. I'm just amazed that you've been doing this for 20 years. But obviously it's evolved. That alone has been its own journey and evolution, and a beautiful thing. I just love what you do. I really do. I really think I think it simplifies. I'm sure there's a lot you have to do during the day. There's a lot of logistic things to do. And I'm not saying it's easy, but yeah, I think within it is, I mean, if I'm wrong, in it, I think there's still a simplicity, because you're doing what you love, what your heart has wanted to do really since you were a little girl. Be with dogs.
It is true. And when I worked in more traditional jobs, I worked a lot of public health department type jobs over the years, and almost invariably once a week I would wake up and think, I cannot go to work. I want to call in sick. It was a struggle just to not, I mean, I love public health and I love doing the work. But since I started doing this 20 years ago, I mean, I've been a couple of times during that time, but not very often. I never wake up and think, I don't want to get out of bed. I think, oh my gosh, the dogs need to be fed. Let's go.
Yeah.
Or
I gotta go pick up dogs today.
Yeah, I know. I don't pick up. That's one shift. I don't pick dogs up anymore. But that was the thing. It's like I wake up in the morning and think, those guys over in Kent are waiting for me. They're in their crates. Let's go get them. There's that sense of true love for what you do. Like, yeah, we're gonna haul them out here, and they're gonna run around for the day and see friends, and it's
they're gonna have
rewarding.
a good time.
I know.
Because I remember, I don't know who it was. I wouldn't even say who it was if I knew, but I remember another client going, oh yeah, my dog can't wait to go to to go to doggy daycare. Or I don't know, it's probably not the best way you say it, but they couldn't wait to go there. And what joy you bring to them, and
Dogs
what
are
brings.
animals. The dogs really do us a big favor by living by themselves in our homes and trying to understand what we're saying to them. They come way closer, to try to communicate with us than most of us do trying to understand dog communication. They really try hard, and they're isolated. They don't have their dog packs anymore. It's hard to be a dog.
So are you a canine whisperer?
I don't consider myself that, no. I mean, you spend enough time with dogs and you get a sense, but no, I don't think I have any special powers.
Well, I'm sure you are able to communicate with them more than the average
Well,
does.
it's It's fun, I will say that. You do kind of get to know what they're saying.
And how did you happen to get 12 tonight? I mean, what's your usual?
Well, 12 includes 4 of my own, and actually a lot of these, well, but people are traveling, a couple of family emergencies, kind of last minute things.
Okay.
People, one person worked on the weekend, things like that.
Okay. Because I remember it was like, I don't know, you had maybe one thing on your schedule. Next thing I know, you've got 12 dogs.
Yeah.
I was like,
It's true, I know, it's all been last minute, it's the same, yeah, yeah. So but we made the talk happen anyway, and they've actually been the best.
they've done amazing.
They're enjoying the energy of this conversation.
Well, I'm grateful for their presence. I feel like there was something special
too.
for them to be here and for us to be able to come here. And, you know, I just pray that whoever needs to hear this, it will serve their highest and best. And hopefully it'll also inspire them, if whether they're in their Crone journey or whenever they step in and out of it, you step in and out of it, that they'll realize that everything's perfect. to trust the process, and that
Yes.
something beautiful is there waiting, something, you know, the eternal light that we talked about. I think that's part of what this time, this Imbolc time represents, that it comes again, the light comes again. We're not stuck in the darkness. We're in a place of, and there is rebirth in many forms.
That's beautiful. That's right.
So thank
you.
Thank you. So hang on, I'm just gonna end the recording here and thank all of our listeners. And